Madikela, welcome to my YouTube channel. So let's talk about Judge Ratha. After Usibanda did all of that and the things that the response to Judge Ratha was quite shocking, to say the least, because what kind of a judge is this, Nasan? Who brought this old man here who is frustrated? Because this man is frustrated, guys. Why are they frustrating Umdomdala? Because Umdomdala cannot handle this, Sana. It's a hit. This kitchen is too hot for him to handle. He needs to get out of it. Because Sana, aibo. So now Judge Ratha opened a dangerous door there. I don't know if he understood what he was doing, especially with his questions. And guess what? Everything is on record. I like that. Now, guys, something very interesting just happened in the Senzo Meyiwa trial. The state has now come to court with information. It says it was discovered yesterday. That was Monday. They said Monday they discovered that information that could potentially be used to challenge the alibi of accused number 3. We will talk about that challenging of an alibi in a separate video. And Judge Ratha Mokgoatlheng asked one question that immediately changed the temperature in that courtroom. Is it not cross-examination time now? That question was proper, né? Because you would think that he's getting somewhere, he's asking great questions. And then the state said, yes, my lord. Then Judge Ratha asked, does the law allow what you propose to do? And the state said, indeed so, my lord. Now, so let's unpack this, because this is not just about one phone number. This is not about Mabungu's number. It's a lot. It's a lot. The state is focusing on a phone number allegedly belonging to Mr. Mabungu Ntuli. According to the prosecutor, that number also appears in the data which relating to accused number 3, which is already before a court and exhibit G1. So the state's argument is essentially, my lord, this information isn't coming from nowhere. The number is already in evidence. But then things get very interesting. The prosecutor says that after court adjourned on Monday, the state went through what Sibanda described as piles and piles of dockets. And that's when they allegedly found a document in the Cleveland case referring to this number. The state then said it followed up with the service provider and obtained the relevant data. Now, stop right there. Stop right there, because that is where the defense is likely to have questions, Kesana. Okay. He further went on, we did not withhold it, okay? The state is making a very deliberate distinction. They are saying we didn't hide this evidence from the defense. The Cleveland docket, according to the state, had already been disclosed. The prosecutor even pointed out that Advocate Ramsipile had apparently referred to that docket during his cross-examination with the accused number 3. So the state is effectively telling the court, this isn't a secret document we kept in our pockets. The docket was disclosed. We only followed up the significance of this particular phone number after Monday's proceedings. And that distinction matters, hear me out, okay? Because if the state had deliberately withheld evidence, that's one problem. But if if the evidence was already sitting inside a disclosed docket and the state only later discovered its significance, that's a very procedural argument. Because what do you mean only later? Now it goes back to what I said in the previous video. You heard the information. You had the information and you were busy not doing anything about it. Now, and you lied about the information and you said the number belongs to Fisokule Ntuli, accused number 5. All to find out you also know it belongs to Mabungu Ntuli. That is problematic at its core, Kesan. That is problematic at its core. Now, this is the big one, that they even said. The state says, we are entitled to investigate an alibi at any stage before the matter is concluded. Okay? Fireworks for them, sharp. And this is where accused number 3's testimony becomes central. The prosecutor emphasizes something repeatedly. under oath. He says, Umncube said under oath the number belongs to Fisokuhle Ntuli. According to the state, the accused only personally testified under oath for the first time that he knew Mabhungu Ntuli and that he was with him on the day of the incident. Yes, defense counsel may have put that proposition to the state witness before, but the state is saying putting a proposition to a witness is not the same as the accused himself giving sworn evidence about it. And once accused takes the witness stand and puts forward an alibi under oath, the state says it must be allowed to test that alibi. Guys, we will have a separate conversation about the alibi issue because yay. Then Judge Ratha drops the question. The prosecutor starts explaining that cross-examination gives the examiner wide latitude to investigate credibility. And then Judge Ratha interrupts. So what do you want me to do? The prosecutor responds, Judge Ratha continues to ask, is it not cross-examination now? And then Judge Ratha, does the law allow you what you are proposing to do? And then Usibanda, indeed so, my lord. He continued, and Judge Ratha, what? Okay, so if you say so, guys, the exchange was very fascinating. Simply because the judge isn't simply asking, is the information relevant? He's asking whether the law actually permits the state to do what it is proposing at this stage of the proceeding. That is much a bigger question. And Judge Ratha knew what he was asking there. Did you see his face? How angry he was at this situation. Now let's look at one thing. Cross-examination or a backdoor for new evidence. What is happening here? And this is where things get nuclear. Yes, cross-examination is broad. Yes, credibility can be tested. Yes, accused person's version can be challenged. But does broad latitude in cross-examination automatically mean that the state can introduce newly obtained information without the defense having a proper opportunity to investigate and respond? That's the battlefield, because there is a massive difference between I'm putting this proposition to you to test your credibility, and I have obtained new telecommunications data and I want to use it to prove that your alibi is false. Those are not necessarily the same thing, and that distinction could become extremely important. Now, the timing of it all is what makes this exclusive. Let's look at the sequence. Accused number 3 testified. He gives some evidence concerning Mabhungu Ntuli being the photographer of the day most of the time. The state goes back through the dockets. They find reference to the phone number. The phone number that they forcefully said it belongs to accused number 5, which is Fisokuhle Ntuli. They contact the service provider, they obtained the data, and now they want to use it while cross-examining the accused. That's a very tight timeline. And naturally, the question becomes, has the defense had a fair opportunity to examine this information? Because the state's argument is essentially, we discovered it late, but we didn't withhold it. The defense could potentially respond, that may be so, but discovery yesterday doesn't automatically mean we can properly deal with it today. Now, here's the bigger issue. Remember what the state is trying to do. They are not merely asking the accused, do you know Mabhungu Ntuli? They are potentially trying to use telecommunications information to challenge the truthfulness of his alibi. That makes the evidential significance much greater, because if the data allegedly places a phone somewhere inconsistent with the accused account, the state may argue that it undermines his credibility. But then the defense can ask, whose phone was it? Who possessed it? What does the tower data actually establish? What does it not establish? Was the number properly linked to the person? When was the data obtained? Was it already available? Was it disclosed? Has the defense had sufficient time to analyze it? Those questions could become absolutely critical. So did Judge Ratha just open a door? That's the question, with him asking the law, does the law allow this? Does the law allow this? That question Because if the court permits the state to extensively investigate the alibi through this newly obtained information during cross-examination, the implications could be significant. The state could effectively say the accused has now put his alibi before court. We are entitled to test it. But the defense could say testing an alibi is one thing, introducing new substantive material without adequate opportunity to deal with it, it is another. And that is where the trial could become another procedural battlefield. Now, guys, don't get distracted by the phone number alone. The real issue is much bigger. It's about when the state discovered the information, when the defense could reasonably deal with it, what exactly the state wants to use it for, and whether cross-examination can be used to introduce or establish the evidential significance of information at this stage. And Judge Rata's questions tells us something. The court knows there is a legal boundary that has to be considered. The state says the law allows us. The judge says, okay, if you say so. Now we are going to wait and see whether the state can actually demonstrate where the law permits it and how far that permission extends. Because if this becomes cross-examination versus new evidence, we could be looking at another major procedural battle in the Senzo Meyiwa trial. So guys, what do you think? Is the state legitimately testing the alibi, or is this an attempt to introduce a new evidential angle through the back door? Drop your thoughts in the comment section. And if you want the courtroom analysis without a sugarcoating, like, share, subscribe. This is Noni M Podcast. We don't watch the trial. We break it down so that you also understand it fully. What are your thoughts? I'll see you on our next video. Bye-bye.